What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Just wanted to give a special video out today, specifically regarding Las Vegas real estate. I think it's unbelievable what's happening there. Quite frankly, expected. But here's the really exciting news. Again, for those of you who watch the channel, know that I'm actually looking for a home in Las Vegas. This will be our second home. So I wanted to make sure to put something out there specifically for home buyers, not investors. So it's interesting because there's still some pieces here that are intertwined. So here are some of the crazy things that are going on in Vegas. And again, this is based on my daily work in looking for our home out in Las Vegas and what will be our home. So what's really, really, really interesting to see is we are now actually seeing the correction taking place, and we are actually seeing median home prices really start to decline. It wasn't a blip on the radar. It wasn't like a few $1,000s. Now it's down almost 10%, almost 10%. And the key here is over the amount of time that it's down 10%. So the reason I wanted to share that is because we have a ton of videos out there, crash, 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 crash. And then there's some videos out there, like I participate with One Rental at a Time, with Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where we're not talking about crashes. We're talking about crashes in transactions. So here's the amazing part. It's all technically happening. We are seeing a crash in transactions where transactions this month absolutely fell off a cliff. The only time in the last 10 years that you can compare any of the sales volume to is in Januaries. Januaries are a dead market almost everywhere in the country, but really a dead market in Las Vegas. If you look at their worst month almost every year, it's going to be January. What's really interesting is that, again, in that last 10 years, 3 of the 4 worst months are in January. We're not in January. We're in September, and these numbers are really based on actually August. So as we continue to watch this unfold, it's been absolutely unbelievable watching what's happening in that market. So here are the really interesting things. So credit going to the correction guys. I'm a correction guy. I believe that the market's going to continue to correct. I still believe crash is more than 20%. So we're almost to 10%. I think we're going to give back more this year. But again, Vegas was one of those top 5 markets that was hyper, hyper hot, super low rates. Now that the rates have basically doubled, and property values have also doubled in a lot of cases in just the last couple of years, 2-3 years, with seeing those numbers move aggressively as I have, again, I'm being very cautious because this is a home for me and for my family. There's not any investment level to it. There's no return on my capital. There's no, investing for appreciation. That certainly is not the case. I don't invest for appreciation anyway. I'm always looking for that return on my capital. So as I continue to unpack Vegas and as I continue to watch it, what we have is, I believe it's 3 months in a row, we're actually seeing down number on the median home sales price. We're seeing that price continue to adjust. Not quite 10% yet. I believe that we will hit that this year. I think it's then going to decline more into next year. Again, my national call is for between 10 and 20% decline over the next couple of years, but there are markets that are going to be exceptions. Because real estate is hyper local, you're going to see Vegas and Boise and potentially Seattle and some of these other places and Austin really start to retrace and kind of come back in a little bit, I believe. Continued interest rate hikes, I believe, is going to be another reason that a lot of that stuff happens. What's really interesting is there's a number of other places in the country, my area for one, where prices have continued to go up. So we're going to hopefully start to see a softening there. That's my hope because I'm an investor. I'm a buyer. I want to buy more property. But it's a different reason for why I'm buying this place out in Vegas. So as I look at the Vegas market, the reason as a home buyer, I can evaluate that market and say, I'm not really paying attention to all the investment things that I look at, except for the fact to say it costs me nothing to delay in buying. I'm not paying rent somewhere else. So one of the major mistakes that homeowners make or home buyers make is they don't take into account not only what the value of the home is and what the interest rate is and what the payment's going to be, but what they don't take into account is the fact that they're paying rent somewhere else and what that spread is. I'm going to cover in my live stream today on the 4th of September. I'm going to cover in my live stream the reason that the US government really blew up our plan for buying a home, our single family home buyers. It's going to be crazy times. I think, lastly, the thing that blew me away the most in the research and in looking and watching all the videos that I have and kind of tracking the market, the thing that blew me away most was we had finally gotten, in the first week of May, we're about 2,000 homes in Las Vegas that were for sale. Then it got up over 8,000 homes in Las Vegas that were for sale. And then you add into that only 1,700 or so homes closing in August. That's kind of crazy because they're adding them so quickly. But here's what's really interesting. We're starting to finally see some pushback from the market. What I mean by that is, in a typical month in Vegas, there's about 250 to 300 homes a month where somebody says, nah, I'm not getting my price, I'm going to pull it off the market. And that was pretty typical, 250, sometimes 300. It was kind of right there in that range. So that was one of the things that I wanted to really look at, because was my theory true? Were people that were locked in with 2.5% and 3% and 3.5% mortgages, were they going to post their house, see that they now couldn't get this amazing pie in the sky, 40% over what they paid 2 years ago number? Were they then going to look at it and go, you know what? Our debt is so cheap on this house that now our debt on our house is an asset. Now we're not going to sell. So what's amazing is, here's the number that's actually crashed. The number that's actually crashed is we went from 200 to 300 homes a month being pulled off the market because they couldn't get the price that they wanted. That number last month was almost 1,400 homes. Almost 1,400. We're now talking about over 400% increase. 400% increase is what there is now in number of homes that have been pulled off the market. I think that that trend is going to continue because the market is a slow learner. So people are going to put out there, they're going to say, yeah, let's just try and get this price. And because agents are doing everything they can to stay busy, because the market really has shifted and certainly has shifted in Las Vegas, a lot of people are just going to say, you know what, whatever it is, let's just take it and let's just see what we can possibly get. Then even if they get an offer, they're going to see zero traffic in a ton of these listings, like literally zero traffic. They're going to go back to their buyers. They're going to say, we need to do a price reduction. And some buyers might say, okay, price reduction. Other buyers are going to say, no, what are you kidding me? We've done the math. For us to go anywhere, we're going to get absolutely crushed. We have 2.5%, 3% debt on our mortgage here. And any other place we go buy is going to be 5.5 to 6.25. And the prices are still largely inflated. That's the crazy thing. So wanted to give you guys a quick update on Las Vegas. I see all of these things getting crazy, falling apart. But I think it's really interesting at the rate by which it's doing it. But my market is nothing like Las Vegas. So the thing that I would continue to tell everybody to do is stop thinking it's this big, huge national crash. Number one, Las Vegas, like it almost always is in the top 5 when it comes to bellwether of what's going to happen, and that they're almost always the first one into the problem, and they're almost always the last ones out of the problem. What's interesting is they almost always also have the highest explosion in growth, dollars wise, meaning on the prices of those homes. So Boise this time was a little bit of an outlier, but Vegas consistently, when you look in the 90s, when you look in the Great Recession, when you look at even what dipped in kind of 15, 16, it again, and then certainly during, what's happening now. So I think it's really interesting to watch, really interesting to see it unfold. So we're actually seeing all of the events occur. We're seeing a massive decline in transactions. We're starting to see a decline in price, as I predicted. We're also seeing that accelerate, which is great. But lastly, and most importantly, is all of these people that I talked about having wish pricing. It would say that they're gonna wait too long, they're gonna throw it in the market, and then they're not gonna get that number. Guess what? They're finally pulling those listings back. So now we've actually seen inventory start to plateau. The question is, for September's numbers, what do we see? Do we see the number of listings drastically reduced because people were out there at wish pricing, didn't have to sell, and they see that their debt at 2.5% or 3% is not replaceable? For them to move up to the next house and sell the one that they're in, they likely will be seeing an increased payment of 60 to 80%. That's how much of a payment increase they could expect to see. I think it just is absolutely blowing my mind what's going on in that market right now in Vegas, but quite frankly, thrilled to be on the buying side. So guys, appreciate the time you always take here with me. Hopefully this will spur some questions. Please feel free to put them in the line below. We always want to make sure that you tap that like button and that you subscribe. As again, I will be covering what the government specifically did, and it wasn't the Fed, what the government specifically did that is going to majorly throw off some different markets across the country, and maybe you're in one of those markets. Guys, thanks so much for the time. Look forward to seeing you on the live stream and getting your questions, and have a fantastic week.